Hi there, this is John Barton from JB Cases. I'm here with David Kurjan. He's a customer of ours who just got a really nice set of a butterfly and a ball case. And he was kind enough to drive up this weekend, on Easter weekend, to visit his family and give us some time to meet and discuss cases and case making and cue collecting and just basically the finer things in life, of course. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it. David, thank you for coming up. I really appreciate it. It's very rare these days that I get to meet my customers and see their expressions when they get their cases. So, I mean, I didn't get to see yours, but I did get to feel your appreciation. So,
well, I called you as soon as I got it and explained how things were going with me, and I enjoyed it. And I appreciate your hospitality here, showing me around where to go shoot pool in Houston, where not to get taken advantage of by sharks. Among which is a very good associate of yours. I'm having fun, and this is really enjoyable for me.
Awesome. Well, so we tried to take a little video earlier. This is unscripted, so if we get technical difficulties or whatever, it just happens. This may end up being spliced together, but we're going to do our best. We are case makers and not videographers. So. Anyway, where we left off a few moments ago, where we were talking about delivery time and waiting time and expectation for projects such as this. Now, just to explain, we're going to show you the cases in a moment, but we did a pretty big project for David, for us, where we did a fully tooled butterfly case and a fully tooled matching ball case. So I think the expectation, you thought, well, maybe this will take a year or so. But when we finally got the order in, I mean, it took longer to place the order than it did to make the cases, which we'll get to in a moment. But as I was explaining to David, we have a shop, and we have a workshop with many employees, not a lot, but more than one. And because of that, we can divide the labor. So even though we have a big project, we can break it into parts where every person does their part. And therefore, it can come together a lot faster than say, a single-man shop for a guy that's got to do everything. So anyway, I'll let David take it from here and explain how we got started on this.
Well, actually, how we got started with this actually is how I started collecting cues and cue cases, which translates from other of my interests. I started shooting pool maybe in the late 80s. Kind of late. I mean, other than being a kid plinking around whenever there was a pool table in a boys' club or something. But when I actually got serious about it, and I met cue maker Jim Buss, who was kind enough to let me hang out in his shop while he did his operations. And I just love wood. I love everything about fine woodwork and fine craftsmanship. And matter of fact, I also was a leather worker as a teenager, but not at the skill level we're talking about here. And so everything I tend to collect or get or use for personal use, I like to be quality. My dad says, you get the top of the line everything. I really don't get the top of the line, but I get stuff that looks nice, that are nice, that handle nice, that are well made. And so I would buy cues, and I wouldn't buy just off the rack stuff. I would buy some nice stuff. I would get opportunities to put what I want in it and have what I want. Guitars. I love guitars. Again, functional art. That's the whole thing. It's got to have a function. It's got to be useful. It's got to be artistic. And so when I coming up in the 90s and getting a pool case, all I ever saw were these cheesy nylon cases that people would zip on the top and shove their cues in, and that was it, unless it was a sleeve or something, and that's all you had to choose from. And then my first case that I got was worth anything was what was then a pretty good case by It's George. You remember those slim black cases?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a good case, and it was all right. And it was a little heavier, but it's okay. And then a gentleman sold me one of those silver fox leather, not the nylon one, but a nice silver fox butterfly case. And I so enjoyed how easy it was to open it up, lay it out, get in and out, whatever I wanted so easily, and it was very lightweight. those days are gone. I quit pool for 10, 11, 12 years. Come back to find these big, huge, clunky things on the market that they call cases. I mean, I don't want to lug something really heavy and bulky around, and everybody's, yeah, I got this, and it's got this leather thing here, and it's all carved, and all. Like it looks like just something that's been slapped together, and it's heavy. Why do you want to do that to yourself? But so I was at a pool tournament, and Joe Salazar, a friend of yours, who sells
he's a longtime friend, one of my dealers,
and all that. He had a lineup of cases, and he had some of the cheesy cases there too, you know. And I'm like, when I get something, I just want it to be very good. And so I picked up this case, and it turns out to be one of your cases. Mm-hmm. This is my first JB case. And I liked it because the quality, the stitching, the zippers, everything is going to stay there. It's functional, it's protected, it's got this rubber heel on the bottom, and the inside. One of my favorite aspects of this case I've never seen before was the latch. This is amazing to me.
You know, I developed that latch because, for those of you that don't know, I started in-stroke Q cases way back in 1991. And in 1994, we moved into mass production, where we did a deal with a factory, and we started using these brass latches that everybody knows on the in-stroke, and now the in-stroke style case. You know, we've even become a style. And I thought back in 91, you know, when I was 22 years old, I thought these were just the greatest things ever. But actually, these latches were only made for purses. You know, they're great for purses because there's no weight on them. Mm-hmm. But what I come to find out is that, you know, this is 5, 6, 8, 10 pounds, depending on the size of the case, the leather, and how many cues are inside. And that little latch right here is just not made to hold that weight, and it would just constantly work itself out and break eventually. So that's why I developed, when I started JB cases, I thought I have to figure out a way to make it where this part will hold all the weight forever that a Q case brings to bear on it. So that's what we did. This latch is actually, you may not know this.
I don't.
This latch is actually 3 pieces of leather on the base, and it is not only riveted through the leather, but it is also hand sewn very tightly through here. Excuse me. And then it is the leather is hardened, so it should never give way. So I've done other videos where I've tried to break the latch. I've swung the case, and I've practically broke my arm trying to get the latch to break.
But aside from the functionality is the ease of use of that latch. I mean, it's just convenient, it's simple, and the simplicity in the design is really key. I mean, it's there, and yet it functions so easy, and that's really what was really cool about this case.
It's kind of a combination of old school. You know, I study cases even back to the 1800s, and I study how did these guys do closures when they didn't have the same mechanical means. You know, I've even seen bags from the 1700s, the 1600s, some that have survived, and you know they traveled long distances. They had a lot more rugged life than we do. So how did they manage to build cases and containers that would stay closed and keep their contents safe?
It reminds me of cabinetry, where you'll find dog latches and little twisty latches like that on cabinets.
Absolutely.
But that being said, and as nice a case as that is, one of my criteria it didn't meet, which is it's heavy. And so I met another pool player who is a friend of mine in Houston, a very good pool player, who had one of your cases, which was a Mason case. And I saw his case, and he showed me some of the details on it. And then I saw a video of you demonstrating a Mason case, how you can put all these cues in there. I says, yeah, and the case that I just showed you was a 2x4, and I tend to have a few more cues in that. And although you can only shoot with one pool cue at a time, I got some nice cues, and I like to show people that, or people ask me, where's your other cue, or this thing, or that thing, and I say, well, it's at home. I don't like to carry around a couple cases, so I says, well, this is 3 by 6, okay. And it just so happened that, that's my first experience directly with you, because the previous case I bought from Joe Salazar and never met you. So I email you on your online website and never reached you. I get someone named Karen. And she's handling all the communications, and I says, listen, I said, and I'm kind of an immediate gratification person. I mean, when I know what I want, I take a long time to figure out what I want, but once I decide I want something or what I want, I kind of want it then.
Right, I got it.
And so I said, I just saw a good friend of mine who has one of your mason cases, and I'd like one. Would you have any in stock? That was the key question. I have no idea if you just got cases around that are available to ship to people, or if everything is made to order or not. I really didn't know how that works. And I said, listen, I says, if it's going to be elaborate, which I would prefer something nice, but whatever, then I don't want to go and wait. Do you have something that's nice, that's already made, that, you know, so I'm not going to waste you, you're not going to take too much time, I'm not going to be in position on you, but I get what I want. And so I got a plain Jane kind of mason case with a couple of details on it. And she said, this case, and she sent me a picture. This case is being finished up right now. Is not really going to anyone in particular. If you want it, it's yours. So I got that one rather quickly. I was happy. And that's this one. And this is it. And the detail's not much. It's got some of this, so it's not exactly plain Jane, but the nice tooling right here is a nice accent. But what really, and I knew about this before I bought the case, what really attracted me to the case was this latch. Again, simplicity in design, functionality, and elegance, all in one. I like this latch, and I like this. And this pocket right here really made the case for me. This was what sold me, one of the things that sold me on the case from, again, it was Danny Lee in Houston who has one of these. He says, and look at this, I've got this. I says, what? And then he unzips it and says, it's got this. And this pocket was really amazing to me. You can put doodads and things in here, right? And then this little thing for your chalk holder, which I don't use correctly. So you have a piece of chalk in here, and you can get your chalk out when you want it, or your scuffer or whatever. And I really like this. Actually, now I'm getting less dexterous, and it's harder for me to go in this pocket and do so much stuff. But this pocket I thought was really cool, and the magnetic latch in the reverse of this. This is both just the leather kind of similar to that other latch, but it also has a magnetic attraction. And then this is that in reverse, where you don't see it from the outside.
Right, and I'll explain that, Ru, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So this is the evolution of the puzzle latch, the twisty puzzle latch, because now I thought if I can do that, I want to eliminate all moving parts. I don't want to have anything that can break.
Okay.
So we use neodymium magnets, also known as earth magnets. So I researched them because there's a couple things about them. I wanted to know, will they lose power? Well, it turns out they do lose power at the rate of 10% every 10 years. So in 100 years, these will be powerless. So we'll have to go in and...
But that's so well, I think even without the magnet, that would work well.
It will. It actually will. It'll stay in place and work. But what we do is we put magnets all the way around here, very small ones, and then and all the way around the perimeter of the latch itself here. So therefore, it has a nice strong bond right here, but not too strong that you can't easily open it.
Right.
So it's strong enough where it will never open by itself. Now, the reason that we do this one, instead of doing it similar to this, the reason that I do it this way is because when you go anywhere and you hit door jambs or anything like that, I don't want it to easily come open. So this actually will stay closed, and I'm pushing in right now and kind of pushing up with my skin, but when you hit a door or a wall or something like that, it usually won't come open. And as you can see, it'll flip shut very quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's why we did this version as opposed to this version. Plus, also, I like the way it looks.
Also, I want to mention, on the other pockets, it seems to be a feature of all your cases that I've looked at so far, and this pocket is no exception, is you have this little jump cue extension holder here, and I never use that. Because I can't jump. I have bursitis in my elbows. I can't get in the correct position to jump the ball. I know they make jump cues where you do it like a pencil, but I also have an aesthetic reason. I prefer to masse rather than jump. And so this is almost wasted on me. And I noticed that when you do fill it with stuff, it takes up space out of this area because it's actually inside here. Well, so I just keep it empty and just let it hang out.
We can't defy physics, you know, there's only so much space inside the pocket. But remember what I told you yesterday when we were playing One Pocket? I said, just, you know, put your bullets in there, put little $1,000 bankrolls, you know, bundles in there, and then hopefully you'll never have to get in there to use them. At least not playing me.
Right. The other thing about this that I like compared to this, that was, again, this is a 2x4, and this is a 3x6, and yet this is slimmer, it weighs less, and you go, well, but this has all the protection. I will agree, this is a beast, and this is phenomenal protection for your cues, you know, impact or anything. I have yet to have any problems with protection with this guy. And the space is less, but the way the compartments are organized in here, I can get 3x6 cues in here, and it's very firm, and it's well protected, and it's lightweight. This weighs a lot less than that, and that's the other nice thing. This is lightweight and convenient, and yet the leather is good quality leather. The leather feels thick enough, very thick and a good pleasant texture. And so I've enjoyed this case a lot.
Thank you.
My only knock about it is, and it's not really a knock about the case, it's just my personal lifestyle is, and again, back to my dexterity, 3x6 is a lot to put in here. They will fit in here, but it's the butts that I have the worst problem because I like the bottom of the butt to be down there, so when I'm trying to stick that in, I have to take some of the shafts out to make room to stick the butts in first and all that. And, okay, so 3x6 gives me two playing cues and my break cue. But I actually have 3 playing cues that I use depending on what the game is, what the table is, and the type of balls. I've found out recently one cue works better with lighter cue balls, and I play with the meso ball most of the time, so I have another cue that's a little heavier that works better with that one. And then I just have some nice cues and people want to see them. So I like to carry more with me. But I'm not a dealer. They go, are you a dealer? No, I just collect nice cues. Well, so I said I need something with more space. And again, for a long time, I wanted a case by a competitor of yours that had really fine tooling. Again, I want something else. I said, okay, I got those. They were kind of off the rack. They were kind of off the shelf. They were your standard models. I said, I want something more personalized. I want something that says, this is me. This is special. And I had met you, and we talked about getting something carved. And I met you right after I bought this really expensive case from a guy, from a very famous case maker, extraordinary case.
It was a beautiful case.
It was gorgeous. It was fantastic. It was expensive. And the first thing I did with the case, I opened it up, and I took my cues, and I put my cue in it, and there was something internal in the case. I don't know what it was, and it scratched my cue. I mean, it put a deep, 3 or 4 deep gouges in my
It was bad. We're not going to mention the case maker. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but we're not going to mention the case maker because we believe that this was really some kind of strange issue. It was a one-off. It just goes to show, though, that regardless of the reputation of the case maker, something can happen, and your cue, you know, could get damaged. It's very rare, but you do want to go with people that sincerely have an interest in protecting your cue and making sure that they are building a protective cue case first, and then putting all the pretty around it.
So, again, I was visiting, again, our mutual friend and you just happened to be there. I had no idea you were going to be there when I was going over this issue with this case with him. And it was amazing. I says, well, I'm going to send this back and I'm going to get me another case. And I did get another fine case in return for that. The person who sold me that case was an exceptionally good businessman and a very honorable gentleman. And he took the case back, paid for the shipping, and gave me another case of approximate value that was very good. And it was except for the time involved, and he paid for fixing and refinishing my cue. So I can't say enough good things about him for him standing behind his business that way. Still, I lost time, I lost function of my cue, and I didn't have the nice thing that I really wanted. And I got something else that was really good, but it wasn't what I had gone after in the first place. Mm-hmm. And again, by this time I've been aware of your business and aware of your cases and recognize the quality in them. I ask you, can I get something a little bit more? Can we do something just a little bit out of the box or in the box, whatever you want to say? And so I said, I'd like not just a case with some carving on it. I really want to glorify the carving. That is, I want to revel in the carving and say, every inch of this case is going to be carved. And it's still got to have all the functional requirements that you have. And I want it to be easier to get my cues in and out of than the one I had. And I harken back to my silver fox days with the butterfly. Because, that's just easier for me, simpler for me, lighter weight to get into. So I said, I want a butterfly case. I want a 4x8 so I have some more cues. You know, can get all my playing cues in there, have my break cue and whatever, and still be easy to get into and out of. And I want all this gorgeous tooling. And what did you tell me?
We can do it.
You can do it. Not only did he tell me that, but he noticed that I carry my own set of Centennials with me in this cheesy box that is actually a pretty good box compared to other carrying cases that people get. Those little nylon zipper things that wear out amazingly fast. But he says, oh, by the way, did you know I can do ball cases too? And I says, what? A leather ball case? Really? How's that work? He kind of explained but didn't explain, and I really didn't know, but we had to settle on the idea of a matching set. And it's amazing. The case that I got from him for the butterfly case is simply amazing by itself. If you never saw anything but that, you go, wow. When I walk in a pool hall with both the butterfly case and the pool ball case, I mean, there's just something about them. It just magnifies the intensity of it tenfold. I mean, it's just really amazing.
Yeah, well, I can see that. I mean,
I can't get any pool playing done. People come up, can I see your case? And they interrupt the game. They don't care whether you're gambling or whatever. I want to see your case and show me your case and show me your case. You know, it's crazy. So.
Well, I was glad that we were able to do it. You know, my standard answer generally is yes. Oftentimes too much gets us in trouble. But yeah, I mean, you know, I've always felt that if we could do it, if it's possible, humanly possible for us to do it, then we should go for it and try it. So that's what we did.
Well, you did a good job. I saw the process was kind of interesting to me because we had the initial conversation and then we did the phone order, and that wasn't the end of it. The phone order was just basically, what do you want, and here's this. And then we're going to go back and we're going to develop sketches off of what you told us. And when he says sketches, it's basically the template for the carving is what it is. It's really a drawn-out tracing that they end up imprinting into the leather and then tracing onto the leather and then carving off of that and developing the carving more fully. But before they do that, they send you the pictures of their tracing paper with the design on it for you to approve. He's not going to just make something that you're not satisfied
Right.
with.
Well,
we went through a couple iterations.
Right. Well, that's what we do, because we mock it up in full size, and then we present it. And if you don't like it, we'll go back and change it, and we'll go through as many iterations as it takes. That's not all wasted time for us, because a lot of that can then be made into other cases at other points.
Which is not going to happen. No one's going to get my design.
Well, no. When we finish a design for a customer, that design is yours forever. So no other customer will ever get this design. We never reuse our patterns. So
you can reuse elements of it. But
yeah, well, we would use, if we did a case that was completely different. Like, for example, you saw another case that we did that had some different basket weave in it, and then the flowers, it had a similar appearance as a fully tooled case. But if you put both of them side by side, you'll notice that they're completely different in the pattern. So the thing with that is that every single time we do this is and I'll show you this real quick. We'll get into the detail in a moment, but this pattern that's drawn on here was drawn only for this case. Same thing for this side and everything on it, and it will never be repeated, ever. So you'll never have to worry about walking in and seeing somebody with the same case. Now, desire, we cannot stop human desire. So you're definitely going to inspire people to want something similar, and in that case, we would do a case for them that would be a design of their own. And I've had people come to me with these unique cases and say, I want exactly what he had. And I say, I know you do, but I'm sorry, we don't do that.
But we can get you something similar.
Right.
The other unique thing about what I asked for on this case was, I wanted to celebrate the effort of the tooling and the carving. And I didn't want to have a distraction of colors. And I didn't want it to be dark. I figured a nice natural color like this will let the carving itself pop out and stand out, be more apparent, and is just as beautiful as having something dark. I have another case here. I'm not going to mention who makes it. If you guess it,
oh, we can mention it. It's okay.
Okay, all right. This is a gorgeous case. I love it.
It's beautiful. This
is a Rusty Melton case, and I wanted a Rusty Melton case for longer than before I wanted one of John's cases. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But the reputation is that the availability on Rusty's cases are very hard to get, because I don't know if he's a one-man shop like you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
His backlog is years out before you even get a place an order. So I tried to find one that was just on the market and buy it, not even specifying anything. And I couldn't. I called the guy, yeah, we're expecting some. One guy said, I got some. I said, well, will you send me pictures? And he says, you're going to argue with me about sending pictures when I just told you whose case this was?
Okay, that's kind of arrogant. But.
Okay, and how much? And I had no idea how much they cost, and we're not going to get in the cost part right now. This is the case I accidentally got when the other case messed up my cue. The cue maker sent me this case as a replacement for that. And this is a beautiful case, and it's got gorgeous tooling. But if you may notice, it's a little dark. And actually, I like this case a lot, and the tooling is great. But sometimes, in certain light situations, you may not see or notice the carving as well as if this leather was a lighter color. And so, and I love this case.
Let's show it off a little bit more. Let's get it closer to the camera so people can see Rusty's work.
And his use of space around and open space around the elements is fantastic. And I got a knock from people about the elephant hide. They say, isn't that an protected animal? But actually, elephant hide, even though elephants are protected species, they're like with any protected species, there's some culling of the herds and appropriate use of the carcasses, and that's where this comes from, officially called leather. So there's nothing illegal about this, and this elephant skin is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
And the carving is beautiful, but it's not a butterfly case. It is heavy, and it doesn't have, it's again a 2x4, and I wanted a 4x8. So this is great. But when I met John, I said, I still want that butterfly case. So that leaves, but I want it in a natural, very tan, light tan, sandy tan color, and let the carving come out. And actually, during the stages when you were sending me photographs, I was worried at one point that you had stained it too dark. But it's hard because the way the cameras work, when you get close up or different, even in the same ambient light, the light in the photograph looks different.
You know, it's funny, right, with photographs. Let me back up for a second and just mention, you know, Rusty Melton, who's my friend. We don't talk as much anymore about case making because he's great, but he often would send pictures or show pictures online of his work in progress, and then so inevitably one of those pictures would be the carving before the coloring goes on, and almost every time I would say, leave it like that, and he would say, I wish I could, but the customer wants it to be darker. So so for Rusty Melton customers out there, trust your carver and leave it light. You can always go dark, but you can't go back. So
and without further ado, I just want to show you how this light colored case really pops. And this is the case on the unopened form, and we'll get to the interior at a certain point. And the one thing that you guys did neglect to do was, and I have the sketch that you sent me, was my initials were supposed to be here, and they're not. But I like it just fine.
Well, we can do another shoulder pad.
Yeah,
we've done that.
This is lightweight. This is a 4x8 butterfly, and it's full of completely full of cues. And this is a 2x4 with no cues in it, nothing in it, and they weigh about the same.
Right. Well.
So this is convenient. And the shoulder strap, this wide shoulder strap, I mean, it's almost effortless. I don't feel like I'm lugging around. Even those other ones, when they're full, something about the balance or whatever, and shoulder, I feel like I'm, after a while, I'm in a tournament and I'm walking around.
Right.
I'm in a tournament and I'm aching. This is very easy to carry and almost weightless on my shoulder. And again, every inch carved, carved, carved. And on the zipper side, we've got the basket weave carving. And speaking of the zippers, I do like to touch on the zippers in your package here. Just the detail in your zipper is just really fine.
Well, we did it a little bit. This is the first time we've done it like this for this case, and we did it for you so that we'd have a little bit of a tooled accent on there, and then we made the zipper shape a little bit different, just to kind of have a nice different touch with the case this time.
Right, and then the connections where your strap goes are very substantial. And
these are riveted underneath where you can't see it, and then it's hand sewn all the way around with the covering on here to add more strength.
Okay, it's very durable. I mean, it doesn't look like or even feel like there's going to be any stress that I can put on this through normal use, and I think this linkage also helps with that. That's going to deform it. It's going to come apart. I really don't see this ever going to come apart. Same thing with the handles. You got the same kind of deal with the handle here. And you were explaining to me how you leave blank spaces. When I saw the templates that you were sending me, and you would have a little patch that was like this, and there would be a little blank spot, and there would be a hole in it, because it was all before it was assembled. All the parts, every leather piece that was made was sketched like a puzzle or something like that. And I was trying to figure how it all goes together when you sent me those pictures. I wasn't sure, and now I see. But it's amazing how it blends into the carving and actually allows spots for it in the carving.
And then one thing is again, back to what I was saying earlier about there's a case maker, and I have to interject this story and give credit where credit's due, but he's not making cases anymore, Q cases, because he just doesn't have time with his other business. But his name is Jim Murnack, and Jim taught me a very important lesson. Jim taught me a very important lesson one day when we were standing around at a show talking, and he said, do not make your cases, make the design look like wallpaper. You know, he said, when you put wallpaper on a wall, when you come to a window or an end of the light, you just have to cut it off. And so if you cut it off right in the middle of the design, that's it. It's just cut. And so he said, design for the space. Plan it out and show that you intended to put this design in this space, and it's just not something you slapped on and then put other elements on top of it. So that is why ever since then I took that to heart, and we design for every single space on this case. This is the back panel. The connections go here, so we leave blank space in here and we design around it so that the vines and the flowers wrap around it. And then we design symmetrically. If you'll notice, there's a flower here exactly in the middle of these two pieces. There's a flower exactly in the middle of these, and another flower almost in the middle of these two pieces, but it's offset by the leaves right here. So it basically fills up the space perfectly for each spot, and nothing is covered up. Nothing is cut off. Okay, excuse me for a moment, David, please. Sure. Okay, you can go ahead and continue with that.
And so this is pretty awesome looking at itself, and I haven't even opened it up. And then you put these two together, and you go, wow! You just more of it just popping everywhere. So now we get to open up this case, and at first when I first bought it. And it's still having those issues on. It was very tight, and particularly once I got all the cues in it and the pockets filled up. Unzipping it's easy, but zipping it, I have to be careful around the corners and in certain spots where the zipper and the leather are kind of stressed, feel a little bit. And I'm sure that over time it'll become more pliable and loosen up.
Oh, it will.
And be easier. But so we open it up and it pops open. And oh, and the other feature of this case is let me backtrack a little bit. So it looks a little fatter. I was explaining how light it is, and that's great. But I'm remembering my Silver Fox case and how skinny and thin it was, and I just sling it and take it everywhere. And now all of a sudden I thought, this is bulkier than I was expecting. And part of the reason for the bulkiness is that the pockets, you don't see any pockets anywhere on here. And that was intentional. I wanted no distraction from the tooling on the outside, on the exterior of this, on either side. And so, but I still needed pockets for accessories. So the pockets are on the inside. Now, if the pockets were on the outside, and he makes versions of this with the pockets on the outside, the total thickness would be the same. So he made the case thicker to allow me to put the pockets, wider, shall we say, to allow me to put the pockets on the inside. And if you think about it, it's still actually no wider than it would be if the pockets were on the outside, but I get uninterrupted tooling space, show all the carving, which is the goal. And then you open it up, and it's got a brown interior. I could pick the colors of the interior. I figured a brown would go with this well, and so that's what I picked. But then you open up, and the pockets are tooled exactly the same as the outside, and that is just amazing looking. So you come in here, and people are just expected to see you open up the case. They've seen all this, and they go, okay, and you open the case, and then another level of eye popping goes on when they see see the pouches here. And again, you have the one feature which is ever present on all your pouches, which is the extra jump cue slot that I never use. But that's good. Now, I'm not going to do it. These are removable, these pouches. And the reason I'm not going to remove them right now is because I figure if I remove and put back and remove and put back, I might wear this material a little bit more than I want to, and they're in a suitable location for me. But they are fully tooled, the same pattern on top with the basket weave around the side, same cool zipper pulls on all the zippers, and then plenty of room, as you would expect on all your accessories, for all your accessories in the pouches. And here as well. So I can get to these pouches easily whenever I want. It's also a little more secure being on the inside. I feel a little more secure. There's no locks on this, and matter of fact, one of the things I might mention maybe on future zipper designs is to allow the possibility of having the hasp of a lock be able to fit through a keyhole in the zipper. But you know, if someone really wants it in your case, they're not going to respect that, and you're not ruin your case to get to your keys. So
They just take the whole case.
yeah, not going to bother with that. But I still love these zipper pulls, and they're great. This tooling is great. The color is light, and it's all just matching. And people's eyes are going from one thing that in my eyes are. I'd rather look at my cue case than play sometimes.
Well, you know, on that note, what I try to design for is how I would, like, when I buy equipment or when I buy things that I really have lusted for a long time. I go back to my first Sean cue. You know, Sean is seen as kind of a production cue nowadays, but back when I was growing up, it was more exotic. And I saved up $1,400 to buy my first cue, and when I got it, the first night I just sat there and I just turned it over and looked at it. Even though it wasn't that elaborate, I just was, you know, in love with all the parts on it and everything about it. And I wanted to know every detail of it, you know. I mean, that might sound obsessive a little bit, but I always felt like the case should pass what I call the couch inspection. You know, and that is when you're sitting alone by yourself, just looking at it and going over it, and you're really getting in touch with the thing that you invested your money and your emotions into and that you waited for. There shouldn't be anything on there that pisses you off. You know, I mean, that's how I feel about it, so that's how we try to do it. We don't always reach that goal, of course, you know, but we try to get there.
Well, in that line, I'm going to take a break from this case and go back to the Mason case for a second then. Because I wanted that Mason case, and I had to wait for it all of, I don't know, 2 weeks to order it and 2 weeks for you to finish it and ship it to me. And again, I'm an instantaneous gratification person. Once we've gone through all the selection, and I know I want it, and I can afford it, and we've made the deal, all right, then I want it right then, as soon as possible. Okay, and I had to wait for it to get shipped from China to me to get this case. I take this case